Ethan Williams was a 32-year-old man living in Dallas, Texas. He had a stable job in the IT sector, owned a modest townhouse, and had spent years working hard to create a life of security and independence. On paper, Ethan looked like the kind of man many women would consider a good catch. He was responsible, financially stable, respectful, and family-oriented. But over the past decade, his experiences in the dating world had left him with more questions than answers. Like many men of his generation, Ethan grew up watching movies where love was portrayed as something pure, simple, and destined to happen naturally. His parents had been married for over 40 years, and he admired the way they built their relationship on trust, loyalty, and teamwork. But when Ethan entered the dating scene in his 20s, he quickly realized that modern relationships didn't work the same way his parents' generation had experienced. His first serious relationship was with a woman named Ashley, whom he met in college. At first, things felt normal. They enjoyed studying together, going on road trips, and dreaming about their future careers. But as the years went on, Ethan noticed that Ashley's priorities seemed to shift. She wasn't interested in building a life with him as much as she was interested in competing with him. Every discussion about the future turned into a debate about money, lifestyle, and status. Instead of talking about mutual goals, she often compared him to other men she knew, men with higher salaries, flashier cars, or more social influence. Ethan tried to be patient, reminding himself that relationships took effort. But when Ashley broke things off to pursue someone she described as more ambitious, Ethan realized that love in the modern world often came second to status. Years later, Ethan tried dating again. This time he met a woman named Madison through a mutual friend in Austin. Madison was fun, outgoing, and charismatic. At first, Ethan thought she might be different. She laughed at his jokes, supported his work projects, and seemed genuinely interested in his life. But soon, red flags appeared. She would often test his boundaries, showing up late to dates, canceling plans last minute, or expecting him to cover every expense without showing appreciation. One night, during dinner at a restaurant in downtown Austin, Ethan casually asked Madison about her thoughts on long-term goals. Madison smiled, leaned back, and said, "I just want to live life to the fullest. If someone can keep up with me and provide the lifestyle I deserve, then we'll see." The word deserve stuck with Ethan. He realized she didn't see relationships as partnerships but as transactions. He ended things soon after, knowing that chasing someone who viewed love as a bargaining chip would only drain him emotionally and financially. By the time Ethan turned 30, he had been through several short-lived relationships. The stories were different, but the themes were the same. Many women he met seemed more focused on social media attention, financial security, and personal freedom than on building a committed partnership. Ethan didn't feel angry at them. He understood that people had the right to pursue their own priorities. But he also knew that his values didn't align with what he was seeing. This is where Ethan's journey began to shift. He discovered online communities where men shared similar stories of confusion, heartbreak, and disappointment in the modern dating scene. These communities weren't about hating women. Rather, they were about men supporting each other and encouraging one another to focus on self-improvement instead of chasing validation. One evening, after finishing a long day at work, Ethan sat on his couch scrolling through articles. He came across a phrase he had never really thought about before: men going their own way. At first, he didn't understand it. But as he read, he realized it was less about giving up on women and more about reclaiming one's independence. It was about men choosing to prioritize their health, careers, passions, and peace of mind instead of chasing relationships that didn't serve them. For Ethan, this was a wake-up call. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't resentful. But he finally understood why he felt exhausted in the dating world, because he was chasing a model of love that no longer existed in the same way it did decades ago. Modern dating had become transactional, competitive, and often superficial. And instead of trying to change others, Ethan decided to change himself. He started waking up early to exercise, not just for physical health but for discipline. He invested in hobbies he had put aside for years, like learning the guitar and volunteering at local community events. He built stronger friendships with men who shared his values, surrounding himself with people who encouraged him rather than drained him. He even began traveling solo, something he had always been afraid to do before. Over time, Ethan noticed something powerful. His confidence grew, his stress levels dropped, and he no longer felt desperate to seek approval in the dating market. He wasn't closing the door on love forever, but he wasn't going to chase it at the expense of his peace. The truth about modern dating, Ethan realized, is that it often puts men in a position where they feel they have to constantly prove their worth. Many men spend their best years trying to earn the attention of women who may not even value them for who they are. But once a man steps back and realizes that his life has meaning outside of relationships, everything changes. Ethan's story is not about giving up on women, it's about giving up on unhealthy patterns. It's about realizing that chasing people who don't respect your time, energy, or values is a losing game. True connection, if it ever comes, will come naturally with someone who shares the same principles. Until then, a man's best investment is himself. By the time Ethan was 35, his life looked completely different. He had advanced in his career, bought a cabin outside Dallas where he could escape the noise of the city, and had written a small book on personal growth. Interestingly, he still dated occasionally, but he did so from a position of confidence rather than need. If things worked out, great. If not, he had no regrets. When people asked him why he wasn't married yet, Ethan would smile and say, "I'm already living a life I'm proud of. If someone wants to join me on the journey, that's wonderful. But I don't need someone to complete me, I'm already whole." That was the raw truth Ethan had discovered about dating modern women. Not that all women were bad, not that love was impossible, but that men needed to stop sacrificing their own well-being in the pursuit of validation. The world had changed, and relationships had changed with it. But a man's responsibility to himself would always remain the same: to grow, to thrive, and to walk his own path with dignity. And that, Ethan believed, was freedom.